Hey everyone, I'm Congressman Scott Perry, and I want to welcome you to our fifth COVID-19 Teletown Hall. I'm glad you all could join me. I will just say right at the outset, if you think you're going to have a question for me or the guest, press 3 at any time, and I'll repeat that. But tonight we'll be discussing COVID-19 economic assistance, which may be available to individuals and families. I'm honored to be joined by Secretary Jerry Oleksiak of the Pennsylvania Department of Labor and Industry. We're thrilled to have him on, and of course, the State Director of Unemployment Compensation Benefits Policy, and her name is Susan Dickinson. And I suspect that they'll be answering a whole lot of your questions this afternoon. Now, the provisions of the Federal CARES Act included extending the period for which someone can collect unemployment. It provides for an extra $600 in unemployment compensation and makes self-employed independent contractors and gig workers eligible for benefits. And as you probably know, they were never eligible before, so they're eligible during this period of time. Now, again, if you have questions for me or our guest, I want you to please press *3 at any time to get in the queue, and then we're going to get to as many questions as we can very quickly here. In addition, if you're tuning in through 91.1 WMSS, I want to thank you for joining us tonight, and please feel free to go to my Facebook page at Rep. Scott Perry to submit a question. That's how we will get your questions, and that Facebook page address again is at Rep. Scott Perry. Now, earlier this week, the L&I, Labor and Industry, began implementing parts of the new federal unemployment compensation benefits. Understand that we passed this at the federal level. We didn't envision setting up a whole separate unemployment compensation system. What we envisioned was, of course, allowing the states individually to do it. Unfortunately, we passed it and then told the states, that this is passed and please get to work on it. So they've had very little time to set something up. So we sure appreciate their hard work, because setting up something for almost 13 million Pennsylvanians is very difficult. In any case, I'd like to get right to it. Mr. Secretary, can you give us maybe a brief overview of where the Commonwealth stands with the implementation? And maybe we can also hear from Susan in that regard as she feels appropriate, and then we can get into some questions.
Absolutely, Congressman. Thank you for the opportunity to be here. If I could quickly give some context to the numbers and the situation that we're dealing with here in Pennsylvania. In the 3 weeks before the mitigation efforts began and the virus impact really kicked in our state, we had a total of 40,000 new unemployment claims, initial claims. Within 3 weeks, less than 3 weeks after, we crossed 1 million. And as of this morning, we have about 1.4 million initial claims, and we've been able to make over 2 million payments of almost totaling about $800 million. So we have been very busy. That's since March 15th, those claims and those payments and those dollars. So we have been very busy getting people the benefits they are entitled to. Initially, as you pointed out, it was the, quote, traditional unemployment compensation. It's taken us a while to get some of this going, because just the traditional piece, because of the numbers. We've just never seen numbers like this. So we are digging out from under. I know some people are frustrated, as are we, with their inability to get through and with some of the issues they are having. We are working as diligently as we can to do that. As you mentioned, the CARES Act, and Susan will get into that in a little bit, but an extra 13 weeks of benefits, and that will happen automatically. The $600, people who are currently receiving unemployment benefits, that will happen automatically on a staggered schedule, but that has already begun. People have already begun to get that $600 in additional benefits this week. The part that's taking a little bit longer, because as you mentioned, Congressman, we were directed by the federal government, the Department of Labor, that we had to have a separate system. We could not combine the PUA, the Pandemic Unemployment Assistance Program, with our traditional unemployment program. So we've been working very hard with our IT people with a vendor for an updated system that we have coming online in October. We've also been very busy in bringing extra help on, whether it's bringing back annuitants, bringing people in from other agencies, going to a triple shift, full-time, around-the-clock work in our mail room, which the unemployment compensation system is heavily mail-oriented. So we're hiring 100 new people to answer phone calls and emails. So using some artificial intelligence, the Watson program from IBM that's answering calls. So we are very busy, and we're anxious to get the people who, as you pointed out, do not traditionally receive unemployment, to get them their benefits. And we are well on the way to getting that system up and running. We'll hope to be taking applications soon and getting dollars out soon after that. So with that, I'll turn it over to Susan for anything more, and then we'll take questions.
Thank you. I'll talk a little bit more about the Pandemic Unemployment Assistance Program, the PUA program. As Jerry mentioned, it is going to be a separate application. We will have a link on our website for that application, as well as some instructions to try to help people understand whether they should be filing the regular unemployment compensation claim versus the PUA claim. So the link will be on the website, and we will also have a separate call-in number for those individuals who do not have internet access. We want them to still be able to reach us, so we're working on coming up with a new phone number that will be directed toward a dedicated set of individuals who are going to take those claims. So since the PUA program is a separate entity, it's going to be a lot different than what you see in our regular system. First of all, it's much more modern looking. It'll be a website that definitely has a new look and feel to it. But also it is just kind of like logging in, just as if you were logging into your bank account online or something. There's no PIN that you have to use to file. You're just going to log in every 2 weeks and file your benefits. So the PUA program is very much modeled after our disaster unemployment assistance program. Normally, disaster unemployment assistance is for localized floods and tornadoes, things of that nature, and it's never been on a statewide widespread basis. So that's why we really needed to get something up online, because we want people to be able to file quickly and receive their benefits quickly. As Jerry mentioned, the FPUC payments, the $600 a week payments, started going out last week. And that is for anyone who receives any type of payment from us for the week, even if it is just $1. And actually, in some cases, some people receive what's called a $0 payment for us, where they may have, for example, received some payment from us, but it was reduced for some reason, such as a child support payment or maybe for an overpayment. So there are payments still going out to individuals in the full $600, no matter what you received for the week, as long as you did receive a payment. And those benefits are paid right after you file. You're not going to receive the payment the same day that you receive your normal payments. It's more like a week later. So if I file on Sunday and I receive my normal payments Wednesday, I should expect to receive my $600 payments the Tuesday or Wednesday of the next week. And this is because the department submits all of the payments for all of the people that week on Thursday night. And you're thinking, why? And actually, this is a program that was in place 10 years ago called FAC. It was only $25 a week, not $600. But that is just how the programming was. So in order to get resurrected and get the money out to people quickly, we were able to use the same exact system, which was very fortunate. We just had to expand it a little bit because the amounts were much larger. But in any case, so if people receive their benefits on one day and they don't receive the FPUC, don't think that there's a problem. It just gets submitted to you later, several days later, up to a week later. And finally, with the CARES Act, is the pandemic, the PEUC, Pandemic Emergency Unemployment Compensation, which is the extra 13 weeks. So we just received that federal guidance 5 days ago. And once again, it's a system that we used 10 years ago, so we're trying to resurrect it and make the changes that are needed for the current CARES Act. And then we will be getting that information out to everyone on what it is that they need to give us, if anything, in order to get those benefits. We're looking for ways to try to have as little touch as possible. We're hoping to be able to set that all up automatically because, of course, that's a large number of people who have exhausted their claims in the last year and a half or so that we have to set up these extra 13 weeks of benefits for. So for now, I think that's all. We can start taking questions whenever you're ready.
Well, thank you, Secretary Alexiak and Director Dickinson. Laura, some people may have just jumped on the call after the introduction, so if you do have a question, we just ask that you please press *3 to get in the queue, *3. And Laura, can we start with our first question?
Yes, we can. The first question is from Karen W.
Go ahead, Karen.
Hi, Scott. This is your pal, Karen, from Camp Hill.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, sir. Think Martin Luther King Day, and you'll know who I am. I was on unemployment. I was let go the end of August of last year. And so I had cycled through my unemployment, and it shut off after the first week in March. And after the first week in March, we were on lockdown, social distancing, stay in your house, whatever, here in Pennsylvania. So is there anything that can help me pay my bills? Because I have to tell you that job hunting, when there's a pandemic, is just a horrible thing that really there aren't a whole lot of people hiring. That's my question. Do I qualify for the federal unemployment?
Okay, Mr. Secretary, do you want to take that, or Susan?
Susan, if you could talk about the qualification, and I have some other information I can provide after that.
Sure. Yes, it sounds like in your situation, Karen, you would be eligible for the PEUC program, which is the one that I mentioned last. That's the one that we're working on getting up and running right now. I don't have a timeline for it specifically, but knowing that it's already kind of in our system and we just have to change a few things and get it up and running, I would think it wouldn't be too much longer. So what we're going to do is part of the CARES Act, part of the guidance that we received requires us to notify everybody who's exhausted a claim within that time frame, and we can do that. It has to be in writing, but in writing could be via email or via paper letter. So if you provided us with an email address, you will be getting an email with instructions and information. For people who did not provide us with an email address, you'll be getting a letter in the mail in the next couple of weeks.
Excellent. Hey, that's excellent. Susan, while you're saying that, for these folks that are listening, what's the best way to contact the Unemployment Compensation Bureau office? You know, is it by phone? Is it by email? Are you at liberty to announce any of those points of contact?
Sure. And I don't know that we have any one best way. Of course, the best way would be, especially if someone isn't looking for claim-specific information. A lot of people are looking for general information, and that, of course, is our website, www.uc.pa.gov, because, of course, if you can answer your own question by looking through the website, that'll save you, the trouble of trying to contact us. So let me go through the other ways real quick. For individuals who do not have internet access, I'll give you our phone number for the service center. It's 888-313-6693. 7284. And the best days to try to call us are later in the week. Mondays and Tuesdays are always extremely busy. Even before the pandemic, Mondays and Tuesdays are just the busiest days. So if you try to call us a Thursday or a Friday, you have better luck. And we did just expand our hours to be open 8 to 4 every day. We had certain days where we were only open half days. So now we're open the full day every day. We are also asking people if they could put our phone number in their phone. We're finding that a lot of times we are, getting to review a claim and we need more information, and we're calling individuals and they don't recognize our number and they think they're spam. I mean, I know I certainly don't pick up numbers I don't know. So it's best if individuals, regardless if you filed online or filed by phone, if you could save that phone number in your phone, and that's 888-313-7284, so that when we call you, you know that it's us. Also, for individuals who do not have internet access, Jerry had mentioned IBM's Watson. Think of this as frequently asked questions, but instead of on our web page, it's frequently asked questions that you can call and ask. So we're calling her Paula. She's our artificial intelligence person, and she has all of our frequently asked questions, but in a phone format. Her phone number is 877-978-1295, and she's available 24/7. And you can just ask general questions, how long does it take to get a claim set up? How long does it take to get a PIN? Those sorts of things. And she should be able to answer it. As any artificial intelligence, it starts out with a basic set of questions, and the more people use her and we see how she's doing, the more we can refine it and the better answers she'll give. So with that, I'll turn it over to Jerry, who had additional information to add.
Just for people who are struggling, and there are many right now, as Karen indicated, there are other resources available besides unemployment. DCED, the Department of Community and Economic Development, if you go on their website, which is dced.pa.gov, there are links to other resources that are available that can help people with credit card bills, loans, mortgages, things like that, small business folks. And also on the pa.gov, there's a resources page that has some of that information as well. And we can get more of those links to you, Congressman Perry.
I sure appreciate it. Thank you, Secretary. Laura, can you give us the next question, please?
The next question is from Gina C.
Hey, Gina. Gina, are you there? Well, it doesn't sound like Gina's. Yes. Go ahead. Go ahead if you're there. Okay,
we will move on to a new question. The next question is from Chris L.
Chris, are
Hello?
you there?
Yes,
hello. Chris.
Hi. So my question is, I'm a self-employed in-home child care provider that I've lost all my clients because none of them are working right now, but I wasn't forced to be shut down by Governor Wolf. So will I still qualify for unemployment as self-employed in this situation? And will my income be based off of the PA average for unemployment, or will it go off of my gross or net income? And will I also get the extra $600 on top of it?
Okay, I'm going to let the Secretary start, and then I might have some other things to add depending on what he says.
Well, I think Susan can give a more detailed information, but the short answer, I believe, is yes. Susan, can you elaborate?
That's correct. You have the short answer. The answer is yes. And then how we figure out eligibility when that application is available on our website and you can file. What we also do is we collect your tax information for the prior year, and we break it down. The way it's going to end up is actually using the same table that we use for regular unemployment. We look to see what your quarterly wages are, and then that kind of determines your high rate. When it comes to the PUA program, there's a minimum dollar amount, and that's $195 a week. So no one who qualifies for PUA will get less than $195 a week as their normal amount. And then to answer the $600 question, yes, that is also payable on top of the PUA the PUA payments. So if you're at the minimum of $195, you'll get that extra $600. It'll be just shy of $800 a week that you end up getting. The maximum benefit amount in Pennsylvania right now is $572 a week. So your base amount wouldn't be any more than that. But anyone who is at the $572 amount still gets the $600 on top of that. So it doesn't matter what your amount is in the range, you'll still get the $600.
Thank you. Chris, does that satisfy does that answer your question, or do you have something else to add?
They're using our tax.
Like
Hello?
Go ahead.
When they're using our tax info, will they be basing our income off our gross income or our net income, since we're self-employed?
It's my understanding that it will be based on the gross.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
Correct. That's how all unemployment is figured, not just on this particular program.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Chris. Laura, do you want to give us the next question?
The next question is from Bob A.
Hey, Bob, are you there?
Yeah, let me get you all speakerphone real quick.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, hang on just a second. Yeah, it's a two-part question. One for the unemployment. I'm retired, getting Social Security, and I just started an antique business where I was going to, set up at an antique place and be one of the vendors. And I'd been purchasing antiques, and I just started selling them, and this hit. So now the antique place is shut down, and I wasn't making a lot. I was just starting out, so I was only making $800,000 a month on top of my retirement. Do I qualify for unemployment or the $600 other thing, or how does that work since I'm on retirement?
Director Dickinson, can you handle that?
Absolutely. So it sounds like you would qualify for the PUA program, the one that will be live in the next week or so. And all you would do is you would provide to us any earnings you may have had last year. And if that's zero, that's fine. We'll still set you at that minimum amount of $195 a week. And we do have a lot of people who are in that situation where maybe they hadn't worked for a while, and they were about to go back to work, or they just started a new job, and now this pandemic hit and they don't have their employment that they thought was going to be there. It just never materialized. And, anyone in that situation is definitely eligible for PUA. The main idea behind PUA is that you don't qualify for regular UC and you've been directly affected by the COVID-19 crisis. So you would qualify for at least the minimum. And then on top of that, you do get the $600 a week.
Okay, Bob, did you have another question then?
The other one was, I'm running into problems of the couple of times I've had to go out. Now, I did environmental work my whole life for the government, actually, as level A. I'm going places, the post office, one place, and the shop store, just twice in the past 2 weeks. And every time I go out, about a third of the people don't have masks or gloves on. And I've been confronted a couple of times and gotten some people call me, "Oh, you're a snowflake. The virus is a fake." And no gloves, no masks. Is the governor thinking of making this mandatory? Because it's sort of a waste to have 2/3 of people having masks and gloves and other people spouting off. And I told the guy, I said, I know it's not mandatory, but you should, because it protects you from giving the germ to somebody else. And the comment was, well, Trump's not wearing one. And I don't want to make this political, but it needs to be mandatory. Is the governor thinking about that or not?
Bob, I'm not sure that the director or the secretary of labor is necessarily the people to ask that question, and certainly I can't speak for the governor. So I hate to do this, but can I just refer you to your your local state representative or senator for that answer, or you can call the governor's office directly. We want to get to financial questions while we have these highly qualified.
Okay, yeah, I apologize. I wasn't sure about that. I just didn't know whether.
Yep.
So on the unemployment thing, even if I got paid cash or stuff and then deposit my bank account, I can use my bank account as proof of income. Then, correct?
Correct. Yeah, we'll ask for tax statements if you have them, but if not, whatever proof you have.
Yeah, and a couple PayPal things too. Okay. Thank you very much. That was very informative.
All right.
Bye bye.
Thank you, Bob. All right, Laura. Next question, please.
The next question is from Karen G.
Yes.
Go ahead, Karen.
Yes. Maybe you covered this, but I got called late into this. But I wanted to know about partial unemployment because I'm working, but only less than half of the 40 hours, maybe 20 or maybe 24 hours a week. They took a day away, and we're only working 4 days a week instead of 5. They were saying something about there was. I would certainly be. I would certainly qualify for partial benefits, right?
Go ahead, Director.
Thank you. So it all depends on the dollar amount that you're making. So what you'll do is you can open a claim. Anytime anyone is working fewer hours than they have been, they can open the claim. And then when you file every 2 weeks for benefits, for actual payments, there's a question on the application for every 2-week benefits that says, did you work? So you would say yes. And then there will be another screen after that has you input the amount of gross wages that you earned. So you would input that amount. And, depending on how people are paid, sometimes it might be a few hours difference every other week or so. That's fine. You just put in the gross amount, and then the system will calculate if you get a payment for the week. So it's not exactly a formula that exists that I can give you. It's not a magical number of hours, but it's all based on the amount. So if your amount is high enough, there's a chance you might not qualify for a benefit for the week. But even if you qualify for $1, these days you'll also get the $600 on top of it. So so it's at least worth trying. And seeing if you do qualify. And again, if your hours end up fluctuating or the amount that you end up getting each week fluctuates, it'll vary week to week. You can just put in your earnings there, and it will calculate, whether or not you qualified for a benefit for the week.
Thank
Congressman
you, Karen. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I want to correct. I'm sorry. I want to correct some information I gave earlier about the website. It's not resources.pa.gov. If you just go to the governor's page, governor.pa.gov, that's governor.pa.gov, and there's a spot, you can see it talks about COVID-19, and if you click Learn More, it gives you some other options for individuals. And when you click for individuals, that's where you can get all that information I was talking about to help with food assistance and loans and mortgages and that kind of thing. So that's governor.pa.gov. The DCED website is more for businesses.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. Okay, Laura, next question, please.
The next question is from Kim L.
Go ahead, Kim.
Hi.
Your line's open.
Hi. My question is this. I have a business, and it's a small business. We have 15 employees, but we're 15 people working there. One of them is a contractor. I originally filed for the PPP loan for the business, and at the time that I filed for it, they said that we could include our contractors, but in the process of between the time that I actually filed for it and the time that I got approved, they came back and said that you cannot claim your contractors. So now I have a contractor who didn't file for unemployment, didn't do anything else because she thought I was going to be able to pay her, keep her on payroll with the loans. So what advice do you have for her to do now? Does she qualify as a contractor for unemployment, and would she go with the PUA, or?
I will let my guests start out, and then I'll follow up.
Okay.
Susan, go ahead. Susan?
All right, I'll yes, I'll take it. So yes, it sounds like the contractor, like she would be eligible for PUA benefits. So when that link becomes available and she can file her application, she would just have to give us some sort of proof of earnings she had with you for the prior year, and we'd process her claim that way.
Okay, and then it's my understanding, Kim, as a contractor, she could also file independently herself, not only for unemployment, but maybe for the PPP, because she is a business entity of her own. So I would encourage her, as she would go to her local financial establishment, her Farm Credit bank, credit union, et cetera, and talk to them about that directly. But you are correct. Each independent agency, so to speak, each independent self-employed person is how the federal government wants to view that. So you would not be doing it you would do it for your employees, unless they were laid off and you weren't paying them, then they would do it themselves. But if you were paying them, then you would file, but your independent contractor has to file him or herself. Does that make sense?
Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, I will say this. She did, because the bank that I got my loan through did tell her to file for the PPP, but the local banks around here in our area, she tried several of them, and they said that they can't take any more of the PPP loans.
I would say that if she's our constituent, that she needs to contact our office if that's the case, and we will see if we can help with that circumstance. That's obviously not the circumstance we're looking for. I know that many of the lending institutions are overwhelmed and they have a time frame that they're trying to meet. We're going to try and solve that person by person if we have to. I thank you for the question, Kim. Thank you very much.
Thanks for your help.
Yes, ma'am. One question for the secretary. We get a bunch of these in our office. A person says that they applied for unemployment comp on March 28th. They got a PIN number. They filed the claims, but they haven't received any payment yet. Do they wait, or should they reapply?
They should not reapply, and we have had some issues with PINs, and again, I'll defer to Susan to get into the specifics, but if they reapply, that will just slow things down even further. So, Susan, can you elaborate?
Sure. So it sounds like in this situation, the person had a successful claim set up, so they received their PIN, they've filed for their week, and so there's two things I could think of that may be holding it up. One is the responses that they gave may have indicated an issue. And we're trying to work with some messaging and changing our application a little bit to try to prevent these problems. One of the most common things that happens is when we ask people if they are able to work and available to work, they don't understand what that means, and they'll say no, even though that's not really true. If someone were to contact them out of the blue and say, hey, can you do this amount of work from home, they'd be able to accept it. so that's just an education piece. So what happens is that stops the payment until we can figure it out with that person to see if they really weren't able and available, or if they are and they just answered incorrectly. So we're working internally to try to alleviate those. And when we do get those, what we're changing our messaging tonight, actually, it should be live tomorrow. At the end of the claim, it tells people to contact us when there is a problem. But of course, right now, that's very difficult. So we're changing our message to say we will contact you, because we have all of those issues on a list. So there's really no reason for people to contact us. If we can look at it without contacting someone and we see that there is no issue, they just made a mistake, we'll just make the payment. We won't even contact them, and they'll receive it in their bank account just a few days later than they thought they would. But if we do need to contact them, we'll do our best to get a hold of them. The other issue I mentioned, besides, giving a wrong answer, so to speak, is if they have out-of-state wages. So if someone has worked in another state, Pennsylvania, as long as you had some wages in Pennsylvania, you can have a Pennsylvania claim, but we still have to reach out to the other state and get your wages and import them to Pennsylvania, and that does take a little bit more of a process. And of course, all the states being overwhelmed right now with unemployment, it may take a little longer getting wages from another state than it normally would. So those are the two main reasons I can think of why payments may have been held up.
Okay, I sure appreciate it. That helps our staff answer those questions in the future. Laura, can we have the next question, please?
The next question is from Michelle J.
Hi, Michelle.
Hi, Scott. Thanks for taking my call. I think I'm hearing an answer already from some of the things you said, but this is a specific situation. My sister lost her job in Pennsylvania 1 month before the crisis. And I don't know that it mattered at all, but she was just about to get a county job, believe it or not, but they hadn't offered it to her yet when the crisis hit, and that fell through. She filed for unemployment, and she is receiving the regular unemployment. I just want to verify that. Is there anything further she needs to do? Does she qualify regardless of the second job she lost? It sounds like people qualify anyway because you consider that they cannot get a job right now. But if you could verify that for me. And is there anything else she needs to do, or will this just happen automatically?
Right. So if she's already set up for the claim and approved for the claim, then that means she's okay for regular unemployment. In the situation we talked about earlier where someone is just starting a job and they don't have a work history, that's when they would be on the emergency, the pandemic unemployment assistance. In this case, it sounds like if she's set up for a claim, she had enough wages in her history to have a regular unemployment claim. So that's good news. So she's set up there, and regular claims last anywhere between 18 weeks to 26 weeks, depending on someone's work history. Once those weeks are exhausted, that's when PEUC will kick in for an additional 13 weeks. And then after that is done, PUA could kick in for additional weeks until the end of December. So depending on the timing and how long her original claim is, she may or may not ever make it as far as PUA since that program ends at the end of December. But she should be fine, up until then because there's different programs that she'll roll on to. So there's really nothing further she has to do other than filing her claims every 2 weeks. And when her regular claim ends, there will be instructions as to what she needs to do for the additional 13 weeks if she needs to do anything. Like I said earlier, we're trying to make it so that people don't have to request it and we can just set it up. But we're trying to operate within the federal guidelines we got, which say we need applications. So we're examining that a little longer.
Okay, excellent. Thank you very much. Laura, do we have the next question, please?
The next question is from Audrey B.
Yes, hello.
Go ahead, Audrey. Yes, ma'am. Go ahead.
Yes, my question is, when will the link for the self-employed to apply for the unemployment benefits be available online? And will the Pennsylvania benefits be backdated to when Governor Wolf shut down the state to non-essential businesses?
I can speak to that initially. We hope to have the applications available for the situation you described for self-employed and 1099 folks and gig employees. We hope to have that up within a week, hopefully sooner. We are working with our vendors and our IT folks right now to get that set up because that does have to be a separate system. And it will be backdated to Susan, I believe you have the dates on what dates are covered.
Correct. Nationally, it goes all the way back to January. However, the a person's specific claim is going to be based on their date of separation. So when they file the claim, it's going to ask, when was the last day you worked? And when they put that date in, that week will be the first week of their claim. So we don't really expect anyone in Pennsylvania to be affected as far back as January or February. Since the governor's declaration started about mid-March, we expect that that's probably when we will be backdating till, for most people.
Thank you. Excellent question. I know that's going to answer a lot of the questions about when's it going to be live is a question we hear daily, Mr. Secretary. I'm sure you know that. Laura, next question. Did you have something to add there, Mr. Secretary?
No, just I'm agreeing with you. We get that question a lot. We have been working as diligently as we can, and we are fortunate. We're actually ahead of most states, believe it or not, in having, on the path that we're on. So as soon as that's available, we will spread the word.
But great, thank you. All right, Laura, next question, please.
The next question is from Dawn C.
Okay, Dawn, go ahead.
Hi there. Thanks for allowing me to ask the question. My husband and I are both business owners jointly, and we are confused in regards to would we both apply for unemployment, or because the business is owned jointly, would one or the other apply?
Hi,
Mr. Secretary.
Yeah, because if you each were taking like your own income from that business, then you would each qualify individually. So you would then just submit the information on the if you're going to file online on the website, there'll be a little spot there where you can submit all of your earnings and tax information, stuff like that. And then we'll figure out, if you filed jointly, figure out the division of wages from there.
Okay, thank you. That's another interesting one. Laura, do we have another question, please?
The next question is from Gail K.
Go ahead, Gail.
Hello.
Hello,
Hi.
Gail. Go ahead. Yes, ma'am.
I'm also a small business owner. My husband and I own a small business. And the first question was answered by the last person. But if we apply for the low-interest loan, not to do payroll, just to help take care of other things, can we do both unemployment and that?
We had this question come up earlier today, actually.
Yeah.
The answer is it will likely be no, because the loan will be considered wages. However, the federal government has promised us further guidance on how to deal with the intersection of those. So we are still waiting for the Department of Labor to issue guidance on the loans and how that interacts with unemployment. So we expect that will be considered wages, but we don't know for certain quite yet.
Yeah, I would say that, Gail, at this time of uncertainty, and the secretary and the director are correct about what they said about we're waiting on guidance. In the absence of guidance, I think it would be prudent if you would visit your financial institution, explain your situation. You might want to just make the application and work through either PPP or the emergency disaster loan, at least to get it on record. And then if it turns out that you can use that for other things like utilities, et cetera, then you'll be able to do that. And if you're not, then the only thing you will have lost is the time of the application and the consideration. And that would be, until we receive guidance, I think, the prudent course of action. So another good question. Thank you, Gail. Laura, do we have another question? And if you do have a question, dial *3.
Our next question is from John F.
Hey, John.
Scott, first off, thanks for all the work you're doing for everybody here in PA.
Yes, sir.
My question is, I'm an insurance broker. 95% of my book of business is restaurants and hotels. Guys have been talking to me, obviously on business income, that's not an issue, or not covered for them. But the biggest question they have is a lot of them have applied, and fortunately a lot of them have been granted the PPP loan. The question they have is the clock starts ticking on that loan the minute the money's dispersed. And their biggest concern is, I don't need the money right now. My employees are on unemployment. When I'm going to need that money is when whoever says we're allowed to reopen opens. And obviously, the flock of people are not going to come in. It's going to take a time. So the revenue isn't going to be there, but yet they're still going to need the full-time employees. That's when they're going to need the money. Is there anything in this PP loan that I could talk to them about that, defers the clock? Because all of them were talking about this clock, about the 8 weeks, and it starts when you get the money. And if you don't use the money until they return, then it turns out to be a real loan, not a grant, so to speak. That's the first question. I do have a second one, but that's the biggest one.
Well, let me try and answer that because I don't think it necessarily falls into the realm of unemployment compensation in this regard. The rationale is, or the goal is, to get as much money into the people's hands that need it, so that they can spend it, so that we keep our economy, kind of moving such that it is, so that when we open up, people, are still producing things. People have some liquidity, some money to spend, and it's being utilized, not just hang on to it. And so that's the reason, or the rationale for the timeline. They want you to get the money and then use it. Now, for PPP, you don't have to necessarily use it for payroll. You can use it for other things like your rent or your lease. You can use it for utilities, what have you, and get caught up on those. But I would suggest if you want money for when things get started up, that you look at the EIDL, the Emergency Incident Disaster Loan, which might come at different terms, obviously, than PPP. But you, believe it or not, could use potentially PPP to pay for the EIDL at some point. So I would encourage you to visit your lending institution to talk about both those things that run through the SBA.
I'm an independent broker, so.
Right.
So, okay, man. Thank you, and again, keep up the good work. Fight the fight for the people.
All right. Thank you, John. Laura,
thank you.
Is there another question, please?
The next question is from Karen R.
Hey, Karen, your line's open.
Hi. I jumped line. I didn't know I did, but I was Karen Richmond, and I was asking, he told me to call the Congressman Perry, because I feel like we're trying to put a Band-Aid on a hemorrhage. What did we do? Did Pennsylvania almost declare bankruptcy? And now it's sort of like, okay, we're going to appease the people and give them unemployment. But this is, in the grander scale of things, the way this virus is working, we have to do a projection of down the line. Maybe workers are going to have to wear protective clothing, go back to work in all that garb to be safe, because number one,
Karen,
they don't know
Karen,
about the virus. Number
Karen, this is
two,
Congressman Perry. I don't disagree with you, and those are policies for both the governor and the president, the administration, and of course every policymaker on down the line in conjunction with healthcare officials to make. But I apologize. That's not the purpose for this call. We have some folks that are experts in some things that we're trying to get solved here for people. So I'd appreciate it if you could just call our office and we could talk to you about your concerns about that separate from this call. So thank you. Laura, do you have another question for us?
The next question is from Bill S.
Hey, Bill, this is Scott. What can we do for you?
Hey, Scott, how are you? And again, thanks again for all that you do. I wanted to ask two very basic questions, if I could, and that is for those people that may be just on the cusp of starting a business and they decided that they wanted to do it. What is the start date for when they would be able to receive this money from the federal government? What's the start date for when they could begin to apply? And the second question, if they are relatively new and they haven't started contributing to unemployment compensation, would they still be available? Would these unemployment compensation dollars still be available for them to be able to pay an employee or help themselves with regards to starting their businesses?
Okay, I'll let the Secretary answer your last question first, and then I'll answer your first question afterwards. Secretary, Mr. Secretary, go ahead.
And thank you. And I want to defer to Susan on this, who I think can help.
Sure. So in that situation where, let's say, someone's already quit their job and they're planning on, opening their own business, and so they took the steps needed. Sorry, I hear some background noise. So anyway, they starting their own business, but it never came to fruition. In that case, normally a person, even if they have enough wage history to financially qualify for an unemployment claim, they wouldn't really be qualified for it because they left the workforce to start their own business. So the PUA program covers that, though, because even though we may not be able to use your work history to set up your wages, at the very minimum, if you didn't have any other wages to give us, that person in that situation would qualify for PUA at that minimum amount plus the $600 every week.
Okay, thank you. And Bill, regarding somebody that's in the process and when can they expect the funds to come in? So under the provisions for PPP, as the legislation has been written and the Secretary of the Treasury is unwavering on, once you're approved for the application, so think about this, you go to the bank or your credit union, what have you, you make your application. Once you get approved, it is then the requirement of not only the Treasury but the lending institution to make sure you have your money within 10 days. So that is the timeline that you can expect, but it is from approval of the application, okay? So that's, and that might be, that obviously takes a different amount of time, different institutions, et cetera. I know that's an imperfect answer, but that's about as perfect as I can give it to you right now. Sure, appreciate you, Bill. Thank you. Laura, is there another question?
The next question is from Floyd S.
All right, Floyd, go ahead. Your line is open.
I don't know if you'll be able to answer this question or not. I prepare income taxes. Today, I've received 4 phone calls from people that have parents that had passed away and got the $1,200 stimulus. Then I have another phone call where they got 2 $2,400 stimulus payments put into the bank. What do they do?
Okay, and boy, I sure thank you for this because our office has received these calls as well. And if people don't know it, the stimulus money is arriving, as has been stated, in people's bank accounts. And the IRS will handle this similar to a payment that shouldn't have been made if the IRS is, making a payment where it goes to someone who is deceased or an additional payment or what have you. So the IRS will want that money back. And so just to me, you would advise your clients that they do not cash those checks. They inform the IRS that either the bank account was closed or the recipient was deceased or double the amount came, whatever the discrepancy is, and they will make that right. But do not use those funds or spend those funds because they will still be accountable for them. And I suspect that's most people know that, but it bears saying because we're a country of 330 million people, and there are going to be mistakes along the way in an operation that's this big, that's happening this fast. It's unfortunate, but it's reality. We just need to make sure that we're doing the right thing. And so if you're receiving something that you know that you shouldn't be receiving, then don't keep it and make sure you return it back to the federal government and the Treasury to help other folks that are in need. And so I thank you for that. Laura, do we have another question, please?
Our next question is from Jose V.
Jose, are you on the line?
Yes, sir, I'm here. Thank you.
Okay, go ahead, sir.
Okay. I was unemployed last year until November 11th. I started a new job. And I got laid off. March 13th was my last day of work. I applied for unemployment, but I was ineligible because I wasn't working prior to November 11th of 2019. I didn't have enough wages, or on that base year wages by quarter. What can I do?
Mr. Secretary.
Hi, Jose.
Go ahead, Susan.
Sorry, I'll jump in. So there's actually two possibilities here. So if you opened your claim in March, that was still the first calendar quarter of the year. And without getting into too many technical details, for the wages to be in your base year, they have to be the first 4 of the last 5 completed calendar quarters. I know it sounds strange, but anyway, what happens is as the calendar rolls on, there's a chance that you could be eligible. It's still a little too early. You would have to wait for next quarter to possibly qualify for regular UC. But what you can qualify for now, as soon as the application is up and running, is the PUA program. So even though you don't financially qualify for regular UC, the Pandemic Unemployment Assistance is where you would go. So you'll file for that, and you'll be able to continue claiming that. We're putting into place, because if someone qualifies for regular UC, they're supposed to receive that money before they receive the PUA money. So what will likely happen is you will file this whole quarter, April, May, June, on PUA, and then come July, we're going to do a wage test on you. It's an automatic thing that happens for all the claimants, a wage test to see if you qualify for regular UC. If you do, at that time, we'll contact you and switch you over to regular UC. If you don't, you're just going to keep on going on PUA, which for most people will be a maximum of 39 weeks of benefits on PUA. The only ones who are going to get less than 39 weeks are people who did qualify from regular UC. We have to subtract the number of weeks of regular UC from the PUA weeks. So again, unemployment's complicated even on a regular day. And right now with all these programs going on, I know it seems like a lot of rules and a lot of qualifications. We're trying to explain that to people the best we can.
Thank you for that. And Director Dickinson, for Jose's benefit, you're a one-stop stop for what you would characterize as regular unemployment compensation, but also PUA, et cetera. So Jose's coming to you for all that. Is that correct?
Correct. It's all done through the same department, and the order of which these programs need to be paid, that's set by the federal government. So they include that in their guidance to tell us which programs have to be paid before which other ones.
Excellent. Thank you. Laura, is there another question, please?
Our next question comes from Matt S.
Go ahead, Matt. Your line's open.
Yes, Congressman Perry. So my question is, I have two college students that have applied for basically a bunch of state internships that are now closed down. Is the PUA going to be available to them? And also
go ahead. Yep, go ahead.
Claims that have been reopened and the people are going in to file their biweekly and they're showing inactive. How long of a process is that going to be to reactivate those? I know they're working on them internally, but there's been issues and some have been over 3 weeks.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Secretary or Director?
And I'll defer to Susan on that. I don't know about the interns, but I know Susan can help with the second part of that question.
Right. Well, for the interns, as I said earlier, PUA is for those who have a work attachment. So as long as they were intending to work, they were had something lined up and they were actually going to do work, and that now they theoretically could accept some work if it came their way, then they should be eligible for PUA. Again, if they don't have a work history to be able to give us wages for the year 2019, that's fine. They'll be set at the minimum amount. And so for the question about the reopens, yes, that is a popular question. There are a lot of reopens that we have to do manually. We're working with our IT people to see if there's a way they can speed this up for us. I don't know exactly how long it takes, but what we're doing, because it fluctuates. Day to day, we get different amounts of reopens. So I wouldn't be able to say, calculate, we get 10,000 a day, we work on 5,000 a day. There's really no way to tell. So what we're doing, though, is every week in normal unemployment, after your 2 weeks of unemployment are over and you go to file, you only have that week. And if you try filing later, it shuts you down and it says, no, you're late. So what we're doing is every weekend, our IT people are going back and opening up the weeks for everyone so that if you did a reopen and you've missed filing on time, and maybe you're even into the second week of missing filing on time, you'll have all 4 of those weeks sitting there waiting for you. Part of the issue and part of what I've been trying to share, when Jerry and I do talk to groups or to the media, is if someone's filed a reopen, they really just need to do it once. If they do it more than that, it first of all clogs up the system with more work, but also it pushes them further down the line, and it's going to make it look like, if you reopened 3 weeks ago and then you reopened again today, it looks like you didn't open 3 weeks ago. It looks like you just reopened today, and you're not necessarily going to be paid those old weeks, not because the system wouldn't make them available for you, but because it's saying, you only wanted your claim as of yesterday. So it is an issue. We saw some woman today, she'd opened her claim 86 times. So we're doing our best to educate, and we just changed some of our claim confirmation emails to explain this to people and say, please don't reopen. So we're catching up a little bit on it now because claims aren't coming in quite at the high volume that they were the first week or two of the pandemic. But it is just going to take time. So if you would, just keep trying to file each day. And eventually, as long as you haven't reopened your claim recently, to override your first reopen, you should be able to file those old weeks.
Wow, that's a tough question. Thank you, Director. Laura, do you have another question, please?
Yes, our last question of the night will be from Bonita K.
Hi, Bonita. What can we do for you?
Okay, I'm retired, and I only get Social Security, and I was wondering if I get any of the benefits from the rebates. I mean, from if I get
but Bonita, you won't be able to receive as you're retired unless you lost. I'm understanding you're not working at all, and you haven't been working throughout the course of this year at this point. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah, so you won't be qualifying for unemployment compensation or the pandemic unemployment compensation, et cetera. However, you should be receiving, if you haven't already, your economic assistance payment based on your income, and those are out this week. They are generally direct deposit right to your bank account, so you should look for that. If you do not have a bank account, then it'll take a little longer to send a check. But I have talked to many, many people. I don't know what the numbers are right now, how many millions of people have already received their assistance payments in that regard. So that should, if it's not there, Bonita, it should be there shortly. And of course, if you don't see it in the course of a couple weeks at this point, if you have a question about it, I'd certainly encourage you to contact our office, and we can help run down what the situation is for you. All right? Okay. Well, apparently that was the last call for the last question that we were able to take. I do want to expressly thank Secretary Jerry Alexiak and his unemployment state director, Susan Dickinson. I'm sure they are working really, really difficult hours right now, as we all are, but we really appreciate them taking some very, very valuable time out of their incredibly busy schedules to answer these very technical questions for us. And so I just want to thank them very much personally.
Thank you, Congressman. We appreciate the opportunity to do it, and we're doing the best we can, and we appreciate people's patience and support. Thank you.
Thank you. We know you're working in incredibly difficult circumstances, and we're very grateful for your service in that regard. Folks, it's been my pleasure to talk to you about this. As always, you can contact our office if you have a question, and if we need to get you in touch with the secretary, we can do that. I think, Secretary, it was www.uc.pa.gov. And
correct.
Yeah. Go ahead. Say it again, Mr. Secretary.
For unemployment, it's uc.pa.gov. That's correct.
Correct.
And on that site, there's a lot of frequently asked questions that I think will help people quite a bit.
Excellent. And the phone number, I think, is 888-313-7284. You're encouraged to call later in the week. Is that correct, Ms. Director?
That is correct.
Wonderful. Folks, I sure appreciate the opportunity to serve. And again, if you have questions, we will work through this together, so please reach out. With that, please stay healthy, abide by the recommendations of your healthcare practitioners, and keep yourself safe. And until we get to talk in person, God bless you, and we'll see you soon. Have a great evening. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.